Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, five-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we simulate a digital summer camp and teach AI algorithms how to make the perfect virtual s'more. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale from 7 figures, which is good, to 8 and 9 figures, which is outstanding. We supercharge revenue growth, create premium valuation, and craft a business you're proud of and a life of impact and freedom that you love. Do you ever sit around and think about what the future of tech will look like? And not necessarily just virtual s'mores, but we're doing things today that just a few years ago were completely unthinkable. So strap on your VR goggles, power up your hoverboards, and let's take a deeper dive into artificial intelligence. AI, we hear about it all the time. It's rapidly reshaping the business landscape. So AI, these 2 simple letters, stand for a revolution that I think is as exciting as it is confusing. So it's as if we're on the precipice of the Grand Canyon, like looking out over the vast expanse of the unknowns, but armed with the promise of untold potential. It's like there's gold in California, so let's go there. 1849, big gold rush. The more I learn, the more I think of AI as the rocket fuel that's powering our journey into the uncharted realms of business. And it's not just about robots and science fiction. Although I am becoming more convinced that robots taking over is far more likely than zombies. But seriously, it's about harnessing the power of data, automating mundane tasks, uncovering new insights, and catapulting customer service into another dimension. And the use cases are growing exponentially, and some of them, like today's guest, are just amazing. Like any tech, AI is only as effective as the hands or minds that wield it. Weaving AI into the fabric of our businesses in ways that enhance rather than replace the human touch. Using AI to make better decisions, foster innovation, and create value in ways that we never imagined. Tasks that used to take highly skilled, trained professionals are now accessible to mere mortals. Need an API? How about a legal document, business process, translation, transcription, summaries? All of them can be had for the asking. Simple query. What used to take humans hours can now be done in a minute or 3. Entire industries are being revolutionized and reshaped. Roles are being redefined. Doesn't mean that they're going away or computers are going to replace people, but we have the ability to rewrite the rules of the game. And for you and me, that means opportunity. The future of business is here. It's intelligent. It's exciting. It's waiting for founders, creators, and innovators to seize the opportunities that are in front of us. One of my favorite quotes from the great Peter Drucker says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I love spending time with founders who are doing just that and taking those opportunities and creating the future. Today's episode is sponsored by Champion Leadership Group, the ultimate resource for SaaS founders and C-suite executives to accelerate capital-efficient growth, unlock your business's potential by leveraging our time-tested SaaS growth toolkit, blueprints, and frameworks designed to help you scale ARR from 7 to 8 to 9 figures. Collaborate with an elite network of SaaS visionaries who are creating the future, celebrate wins, and overcome setbacks together. Prioritize strategic decisions and create profitable growth, premium valuation, and freedom. Elevate your SaaS trajectory with Champion Leadership Group. You can learn more at championleadership.com. Our expert guest last Thursday was Phil Alves, CEO and principal consultant at DevSquad. Phil has led the build of over 100 SaaS products and led multiple clients to multi-million-dollar exits along the way. Amazing insights from Phil. Knowledge from 100 plus SaaS products. Pretty cool. It's just a wealth of knowledge. Great episode. And our founder last week was Dr. Jonathan Bakhtari. He is CEO of both E7 Health and US Drug Test Centers. He talked about how SaaS and tech are solving patient care and employer convenience challenges, and all of that going on in healthcare and what technology and healthcare looks like combined. So if you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. Definitely worth your time. My guest today is Nina Suri, a serial entrepreneur with 2 decades leading organizations and improving the hiring process, building high-performing teams, and creating greatness in 9 different countries. Nina is founder and CEO of x0PA AI, a cutting-edge B2B SaaS platform that leverages AI to assist organizations in streamlining their human capital and deployment processes while enhancing efficiency and eliminating bias in candidate screening and selection. Absolutely brilliant concept. It's a great use of AI. In addition to leading x0PA AI, Nina is also the founder and chair of Empower, an AI-powered platform that empowers companies to hire, retain, and engage neurodiverse talent. Again, brilliant concept. Welcome someone who has a tremendous vision for the future and is creating it herself, Nina Suri. Hey, Nina, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, we got to actually spend some time together in person at SaaS Open. It was so much fun. I don't get to meet as many guests as I'd like to in person. A lot of times it's like this, and it was just such a delight. Great event.
It was. Oh, my God. And did we not grab breakfast together? I think that's where we met on the breakfast table, correct? Yes, sure over a bagel. Yes.
That's a great way to meet too.
Yeah.
Well, tell me
it was wonderful to meet you.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you came up with the idea for x0PA.
Yeah, so I'm actually an electronics engineer, Jeff, and so a bit of a geek at heart. Love technology and everything technology, but I worked for a few companies before I decided enough was enough. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So x0PA is actually my second company. My previous company was a traditional HR consulting and executive search, although I'm not an HR person. But the whole idea about people really fascinated me. So it was in 2017, I wanted to kind of pivot to a more technology background, a technology firm. So kind of disrupted our own business from brick and mortar to a online AI driven platform. So so that's where it is with that whole ethos of really improving the hireability of people, making it more equitable and just making it more efficient and smarter for organizations so that ultimately everybody's happy and they are in the right job at the right place.
I love that. I think the concept is brilliant in just, more equity, more diversity, less bias in the hiring process.
Yes.
Is that something that you started out kind of with that concept, or is that something that developed in the solution over time?
No, that was actually the central theme of the of the startup. Having been in the traditional executive search business and up and close with clients, solving their hiring issues. One thing that really spoke to me was the very, very subjective nature of hiring. It's one of the most subjective, most human driven functions, and which is good and bad, right? So it's good because of relationships and stuff like that, but it is also can have its limitations in terms of, screening people out for the wrong reasons or, kind of overlooking people because of the lack of either time or resources needed. So that kind of really spoke. I felt that was really the central theme, to remove bias from hiring and really screen people in rather than screen people out, which is typically what happens in a traditional hiring setup. So with AI, data science, we just felt that there was a fantastic opportunity for us to solve that problem and really scale it. It's one thing is to solve it, and then how do you kind of really scale it across markets and across geographies. So bias has always been a very central theme to the platform.
And in the hiring process, I think it's really difficult because we have conscious bias that we know about, and we have unconscious bias, and we can really work on the conscious piece if we want to. Some people do, some don't necessarily think it's that important. But then there's always the unconscious bias.
Yes.
So how is it that you really solve both of those issues with your solution?
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. Every human, all of us have a data pattern in the brain based on our experiences, the way we've grown up, our environment, and so on. So, as much as we might consider ourselves to be extremely inclusive and unbiased, it is not true. So, there are 12 cognitive biases in hiring, right? And this is scientifically kind of proven that there are 12 specific cognitive biases in hiring. Just to give you an example, for example, horn bias. Horn bias is when you underestimate a candidate's capability, could be based either from the city they come from, or maybe the background or whatever. And then there is the opposite of horn, which is halo effect, which means that you glorify the candidate. Maybe you had a good laugh with them, or you had a good energy with them, and in that 1 hour or that half an hour of discussion, and then you kind of over glorify them. So things like that. So there are 12 such biases. So the way we mitigate that is, and these biases usually happen if you get the first stage right, which is if you get the top of the funnel right. The hypothesis is that you will get the rest of the process right as well. But what happens is it's in the initial stage, at the resume stage, where a lot of candidates get screened out. It could be gender, it could be ethnicity, it could be where you come from, something that kind of appeared in the resume, which kind of the recruiter assumed that this is not the right candidate. So the first stage in our platform is to take away that human selection, right, in the very first stage. So it is really extremely skill based. So it'll look at the capabilities of the candidate. It will not look at any of the other personal parameters, age, gender, any of the personal, and only look at the capability and the skills based approach to screen them in. And that's your top of the funnel. And then you start working from there onwards. So you've got the first step right. You've not missed out, or you've not screened the good people out, or capable people who could be complete rock stars for you in the organization.
I think that's fascinating. And so it's more than just removing, the name from a resume.
Oh yeah.
There's more to it than that. So even you're looking at something like, somebody has 20 years of experience, you may infer, well, that person's old.
Yes.
Is that something that you deal with as well?
Absolutely. So the first stage of selection and the shortlisting is completely without any personal parameters. It's purely skill based. And, Jeff, it's very interesting. And the more we work in this area, the more fascinating it is. Skills, again, if you look at a typical recruitment process, and I'm sure you and I both have been guilty to this, if you're looking for a particular skill, let's say that we're looking for somebody in Python or in data science, we tend to kind of look for those keywords, right, in the resume.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a typical way of doing it. What we don't see is that sometimes you may have complementary skills, or you may have adjacencies, which could help you improve your talent pool and kind of your reach. So this is where natural language processing and AI are so clever that it kind of stretches beyond just that keyword. And I'll give you a very this is an example I always love giving, which is, let's say that you want somebody with 20 years of 20 years experience as a data scientist. My point is, 20 years back, there was no data scientist, right?
Right.
Yeah. If you start going by keywords, you're going to screen everybody out. Whereas what AI would do very intelligently is look at backgrounds in statistics, in modeling, in algorithms, and so on, and say, you know what, this person has the capability to do the job that you're looking at. And it also gives you a percentage and says that they have 70% of the skills you need. And here is a list of skills that they probably need to upskill. But because they're adjacencies, the learning curve is not going to be so sharp. And in a way, it helps you to kind of upskill that candidate and retain them. So it almost becomes like a retention tool as well in some sort of a way. So NLP and AI can be very, very clever in that aspect.
That's really interesting. Does that work with internal candidates as well?
I love that question. Absolutely, 100%. I love it, Jeff. Especially in today's climate, where people could be shedding hundreds and thousands of people, there are companies who are using for internal mobility. So for two things. Before they kind of do a massive layoff, they would run the tool to see who are the ones that can actually be redeployed for different jobs within the organization. There are companies that we work with who solely do their job rotation based on they use our platform for job rotation and succession planning. So, so they have a roadmap for a candidate that you are at an X stage and you need to move to the Y as your next career, growth within the company. These are the skills that you need to develop. And so it can also be used for that. So yes, it can be used for internal mobility, internal creating project teams. It can be used for avoiding losing people during layoffs. And just on that point, I'm glad you raise it. We've just trademarked a feature which is called Zopa's team persona. So for example, if you are trying to put a project team together, let's say that you have a project and you want to put an internal team together. One thing is, of course, you want to put the skills together, which are required to do that project. But you also want to make sure that the personas of the people that are working on that project are complementary to each other so that the outcome is a good teamwork and a healthy project deliverable, right? So this doesn't just look at the pure skills. It looks at skills plus the cognitive intelligence of the people within the team.
Wow. That's brilliant, because you're not only getting the skills, but getting people that are going to work together well. So how do you capture that data so you really kind of have the cognitive personality of the team?
Yeah, I mean, the data journey obviously started years and years back for us, right? Sure. My previous company, that's what formed the first basis of the initial algorithm. So we had almost 14 million data. And it's not just about having jobs and candidates, right? You need the time series, you need the outcomes, you need the impact and so on to actually create the algorithm. So we created the first set of algorithms based on that. And then we said, okay, now we need to scale it. We need to scale it across markets, across industries, across positions, and so on. So we've tested now over a period of time on over 200 million data on public data, like LinkedIn and GitHub and Stack Overflow and so on. You name it, job portals and so on. And I think we're quite confident that it can be applied to any industry, any geography, any position, as far as we know. So far, we work with a variety of clients, and it's kind of worked across all. And it's an iterative process. How data science is. You have to keep refining the model. You have to use the machine learning to make sure that you're constantly keeping it. You're constantly monitoring it for removing any data bias or data redundancies and so on. So
tell me more about neurodiversity.
Yeah, I mean, that's my pet topic. Thanks for bringing that up. Of course, diversity, inclusion are such a big and such a topical thing nowadays. But I think one area which always gets ignored, and I hope it's beginning to get some attention, is the neurodiversity, or what we call the invisible disabilities, right? You don't see these disabilities, but it can kind of make it difficult for a person to adapt to what the conditions are. So if you look at the companies nowadays, or just traditionally, historically, companies have been designed to kind of hire and retain people who are not neurodiverse, right? Right from your selection process, your interview process, the way, your open offices and your whatever, everything is kind of designed keeping in mind that your employee is not neurodiverse. So neurodiversity, obviously now with the awareness, companies are realizing, when we talk about neurodiversity, just for clarification, we're talking about people on the autism spectrum, ADHD, dyslexia, and even some of the mental health conditions like bipolar disorder, or, and so on. And these individuals with these conditions have a genius in something or the other. And the whole idea is, how do you tap into that genius, make the best out of that? And, instead of kind of isolating them or not creating accommodations that they can thrive within your organization. So we launched a kind of a very small startup. It was part of Zopa, but then we kind of spun it off so that it can have its own attention and doesn't get dwarfed with Zopa, which specifically focuses on helping companies make accommodations and hire neurodiverse talent for their organizations. And we've got some amazing names on board. We've got Microsoft, we've got LinkedIn. There are a lot of psychiatrists who have been fundamentally helping us in designing the whole framework and so on. Yeah, it's going to be the next big move, I think. I think the governments are taking it seriously now, and companies are beginning to realize that that's a talent they can't ignore.
And what do you think is held that up to this point? Is it that they're afraid of hiring managers, maybe afraid of what it may do to culture? Are they going to fit in culturally, or they just don't know how to deal with that, not equipped, or not really understanding what accommodations may need to be made?
Yeah, it's definitely fear of the unknown. You don't know what you're going to be up against. It's kind of, let's just avoid. Avoidance has been the most easy way out. Also, not a lack of awareness, right, Jeff? Lack of awareness around what the condition means. What are the benefits of hiring? So we always look at the disadvantages and the accommodations you need to make, but you don't realize the benefits that it can bring to your organization. And I think so much has been now said, and so much awareness around how important diverse thinking is for a company, especially as, as the generations are changing, the Gen Z and the Gen Next are so very different from the generations before, my generation or the generation before me, definitely not yours. I'm sure you're much younger than me. But so your generation, which is the Gen Z, are very different from, so we need to prepare for this new world, and they are very inclusive. They are very conscious of diversity. They don't want to work for companies who do not acknowledge or embrace diversity, because that is the real world, right? You cannot isolate certain people, and you need to get the power of different thinking into your company.
Diversity, a lot of times when people think about diversity, first thing that comes to mind is the way people look or ethnic backgrounds, those kinds of things. I think one of the most important ones in building a company is just background diversity in different industries. And so I think that's one of the things really interesting about Zopa is being able to do that. And you're finding people not just looking for people who have been doing the same thing in the same industry for years, but you're really kind of bringing in the different ways that they see the world because of that industry background.
So true, Jeff. So true. Absolutely. And, kind of simplifying that for the companies, with technology, so that they are able, so that the friction to actually accept that gets reduced. And you have data to back your thesis, right? Of course, we can all go the safe way and hire the same kind of people that we've always been hiring, and expect a different outcome, which is not going to happen, right? Yeah. So it's inevitable. Yes.
So how do you think hiring has changed over the last 10 or 20 years?
I would say hiring has changed over the last 5 years, Jeff.
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Maybe the last 2 years.
Yeah. In my previous company, it was pretty standard, right? The client would say, I want to hire, this is the position I want to hire. These are the companies I want you to kind of get me candidates from. And, very, very, like you yourself said, very set, stereotypical job profile, right? From there came the advent of AI and data science. And I know that there aren't too many players, although the HR space is very crowded. So we do play in a very crowded space. However, if you look under the hood, there are far and few people who are actually doing the true AI, but that is where the impact is really showing. Things like, looking beyond your normal normal criteria of hiring. Firstly, that is one big change. So that really helps screen people in looking beyond the industries, like you just said. Like otherwise, you would always say, I need a salesperson who has worked in oil and gas and who has worked for da 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 da. They would be so stringent. But now, because of AI, you have data to back that. If you could probably look beyond just that scope that you've been looking at, you can kind of experiment with a little more outside of the industries that you are already operating in. So really kind of expanding that talent pool and really kind of pushing that, and not in some unstructured way, but with data to back that hypothesis, right? To back that, so that it reduces your risk of hiring. So to your question, how has it changed? I think one thing for sure, that a lot of process waste, as we call it, has been replaced with automation. So, even small things like, so for example, in Zopa, everything is automated, right from creating a job description, to screening resumes, to scheduling interviews. So it depends on what is the appetite of the company to automate. It can go all the way to 100% automation, or it can be 90, 80, depends on how you want to kind of, so we work with the client to kind of, make it as automated as they want. But it has changed, and it will continue to change. There is pressure on time. There is pressure on cost. There is pressure on getting the right people for your company. You don't want to make a mistake for key hires. So the quality and the effectiveness of hiring is now very key. And it's interesting, when 5 years back, when we started Zopa, and I started to kind of socialize this idea with a few of the clients of my previous company. And I said, look, this is what I'm thinking, and this is what we are planning. They were like, as if I've gone cuckoo, right? Like they said, something as human as hiring, how can you automate it? How can you make it with artificial intelligence? And today it's completely different. They want AI. They want
Right.
these tools, and they say that's the future of work.
I love that. Yeah, anytime there's new technology, it's, that will never work. You can't replace humans with that.
Yes.
And then that makes humans better. You're not replacing humans, but it makes us better at what we do.
Exactly.
Much more efficient, faster, smarter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's displacing a lot of jobs, and I think it's just making the quality of work so much more interesting for humans, so that we are not doing things in the old-fashioned way or in the really slow and tedious. It's taken away those pain areas for humans, and to focus on more intellectual things and more things around relationship building, more around cognitive intelligence, and so on, rather than trying to do the drudgery work and the very, very manual work around hiring.
Takes the low level task and
Exactly.
really lets the people really focus in on what matters.
Exactly.
And in the hiring process, it's the person. It's not all the data and everything else.
Yeah.
And most of the time we weren't looking at data anyway. It was gut feel.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it makes us much better.
Absolutely.
Well, Zopa is a really unique name, and is there a story behind that?
Yes. Well, to start with, I was quite keen to have a 4-letter word. So we said we cannot have more than 4 letters. So, inspired by Uber and so on. So, we did a little competition within the company, and Zopa actually was really fascinating. Firstly, it rang like it was easy on the tongue, but X and 0 stand for numbers, PA stand for predictive analytics, and we said, okay, that makes sense. And
wow.
Zopa in many countries means it's all about people. So in Panama and in quite a few other countries, and we looked it up and we said, okay, that's perfect. It's all about people and it's all about data.
That's really interesting. I like that. And even just starting with a four letter word, that's hard to get these days.
Yeah.
And so really interesting that you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's always an icebreaker, because every time I talk to a client or a new investor and say, first tell me, what does Zopa mean? So so it's a good icebreaker.
Yeah, it's a great conversation starter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the predictive analytics and people.
Yeah.
So putting those two things together. So how do you think AI is going to change not only the hiring process and how we work in the future, but just business overall?
Okay. I don't think I'm going to say anything different from what has not already been said. I think AI is on steroids right now, as we all know.
Sure.
OpenAI, Bard, all of these tools have shown the capabilities and sometimes almost scaring capabilities of AI, right?
Yeah.
So I think we are on a fast track, Jeff. And as much as I don't want to create that FOMO factor, but I think people need to kind of adapt and adopt rather than be left behind, right? Because your competitors are doing it, it kind of is saving them time, money. I think there are so many different benefits of AI, but so for example, just to kind of, before I come to the downside of it, we've got our own patents, right, for all the analytics and stuff like that. But now we've further added ChatGPT onto our platform. So things like, making sure that your job descriptions don't have anything discriminatory. How do you, this is a very powerful tool. So that how do you? It's not about just managing one recruiter. What if you have a team of 100 recruiters? You want to make sure that none of them are making that mistake. So things like that, right? So we've got ChatGPT kind of monitoring that. We've also used ChatGPT to create interview questions and and stuff like that. So the point is, it is on fast track. It's moving a bit too fast, even for technologists like us, our comfort, because, we don't want to be left behind. We want to make sure that we have incorporated all of this. Downside, I always feel with technology moving so quickly, governance is always lagging, so by the time the governance catches up, there's always some damage done already, or there are some, something not nice happened because of that. And by the time governance catches up is a bit of a problem. So I think that is where governments will need to focus. And, I think we need to have a very strong and stringent framework for ethical AI and the good use of AI. There will always be the other side and the sinister side of it. But I think, if we can have some kind of governance framework. For example, we are the first HR tech company to get AI verified status, which means that, so there were 10 companies who took part in this initial initiative, including Microsoft, AWS, and a few other big companies. We were the only HR tech company, which meant that we had to open up our hood to show all the AI that we use to get that verification that it's ethical, responsible, and explainable. And I think it's really important that frameworks like this exist so that you are kind of making sure you are being ethical and you're being responsible, and there is no black box, and it explains the decision that it is giving you or whatever action it's taking is an explainable one.
I think that is really important, and that's something that has come up, particularly on the social side, over the past few years. Is that the black box, and how does it work? Oh, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It just it promotes some things and suppresses other ones. We don't really know.
Yes.
So I think that's really interesting. Just that it is explainable.
Absolutely. So every action on our platform, for example, gives you the reason of why the data is showing what it does, so that it is more as a counseling, like a scorecard, to help you make the right decision. But ultimately, the decision is of the human recruiter, right? You can only back it up with data and nudge the right decisions and the right outcome. But like I said, it has to make sure that there is a framework and there is a controlling body and a governing body for all of this. Yeah.
You've done some really great things for the company. You won an award here recently. Tell me about that.
Oh, the award. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was interesting.
Oh, yes, the award. That was a good deal.
Yeah, no, we're so wrapped up in work, but no, this was an amazing surprise. It was an award sponsored by JP Morgan Private Bank, which was audited by Ernst & Young, where they identified the top 100 fast-growing businesses in Asia Pacific. It was awesome, and it came out of the blue, and it felt great. It was a great evening in Hong Kong, and we loved it.
And you spend a lot of time in Hong Kong, you just mentioned. You spend time in Singapore.
Correct.
Is that where your team is?
Yes. So we are headquartered in Singapore. I am a Singaporean, and the company started off there. We are now, of course, in four markets. So in addition to Singapore, we are in India, we are in Dubai, and we are in London now. So Singapore is a great, if you haven't been there, please do visit. It's absolutely fantastic.
Beautiful country.
You have sunshine 24/7, except for the tropical rains, but it's a warm rain. It's not cold rain. So and very, very startup friendly, very business friendly, excellent support for businesses. So I can't say enough, and I can't thank
and great scuba diving too.
Is that right? I haven't tried that. Okay, I should try that as well.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, what is the future for XOPA? What's the next step for you?
Wow, that's a deep question, Jeff. I mean, of course, we are very hungry. We want to we've just tipped, it's just the tip of the iceberg right now. We've got solid technology, great product. We want to make sure that we take it to as many markets as we can, and really kind of make that difference and impact to the client. So we're looking at US very seriously now. And I know you and I talked about working together. So US, Canada, we're looking at South Africa. And Africa is a fascinating country for us, especially for a tool like this, because we've got both. We've got white collar hiring and we've got blue collar hiring as well, which is amazing. I have to tell you about the blue collar. Sorry, I know you've not asked me this. Sure. I have to tell you about the blue collar. It's awesome because it is completely resume free. So there is no resume involved. It is an AI kind of interaction with the candidate. We call it turn up to work, which means that you can actually put it on 100% automation so that the team and the recruiters can actually focus on inducting, training, and really engaging with the employees as opposed to like wasting time and really through the tactical work of hiring. So we've just signed a very large deal with a fantastic company which owns almost 80% of supermarkets in Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're so super excited about that. Once this goes online and goes live, we intend to take this to the other markets, to the US, to the UK and Europe and Dubai. Yeah.
I like that. A lot of times, especially kind of the traditional way, especially as you start getting job boards, people who write good resumes or who just keyword stuff really well.
Yes.
Those are the resumes that end up on top.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily the best candidates. I think that's really interesting. Some of the best people
yes.
that I've hired had the worst resumes. I mean, on paper, you would never want to hire them.
Exactly.
But then you have a conversation, you go, wow, this person is amazing.
Yes.
And they just can't write a resume. But I see that a lot in technology, but especially, you bring up the blue collar side. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
you make a really good point, Jeff. And that is why we love AI, because that's another bias, right? The resume bias, as we call it, and AI is non-judgmental, right? Like, so it doesn't kind of, it's very, very clinical when it looks at the information rather than the way it's written or, how many keywords you've thrown in and stuff like that. So good. It's a really good point. Yeah. Ultimately, I think the vision that we have is, equal opportunities and equitable opportunities for everyone, really get rid of the resume so that you get rid of the bias from the word go. There's still a lot of work. Like you said, what are our plans? Other than scaling, of course, we want to keep innovating and really making this field as scientific as possible so that there is, people are in the right job at the right time for benefit of everybody.
That's great. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned in building the company?
You can't have a bad day. Right?
Interesting.
You just cannot have a bad day. At least as a CEO, you kind of you just got to get on with it. And I think one of the biggest lessons is that if you have a purpose, if the company has a purpose, that really gets you out of the bed every morning. We run companies for profit and we run companies for scale and revenues and so on. But what really gets you out of the bed is the impact that you create, and the kudos that you get from your clients on the good work and how happy they are. And that really brightens up, our day. And, my leadership team is very similar to me. We just love that word of positive encouragement when a client says that, we saved so much money, or we hired such amazing people, or, you made this impact. So I think that impact, Jeff, I think that meaningful impact is what is so important to keep you really energized.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, where can people learn more about you and about Zopa online?
Yeah, so we are at www.zopa, which is spelled as X0PA.com. And I hope you will put that in the caption so that it is nice and bold.
Yeah, we'll make sure to link that in the show notes as well, for sure.
Amazing. And, they can drop me an email at nina@zopa.com, and I'll be more than happy to kind of arrange for a free trial or, just a demo for them.
Outstanding. Yeah, everybody should take a look at this. And it's something, big companies, I think there's no reason why they shouldn't adopt this yesterday. But even small companies, smaller companies, this is not just a big company solution. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. Absolutely correct. It's a great startup. It's a great SME solution as well. It gives you the control. It takes back the control. It helps you manage your talent pool, not just for today's jobs, but also for your future jobs. And you get so much market intelligence, right? When you speak to candidates and when you take that control back and you have so much data of your own. So 100%. So it's for anybody.
Outstanding. I really enjoyed our conversation today. It was great to meet you in person. And I hope we get to connect again here soon.
Me too, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And we will share another bagel in Austin, I believe, the next SaaS Open.
Yes, that's right.
Awesome stuff.
Right.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Nina, for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom, insights, and how you're improving the workplace and our teams by kicking unconscious bias out of them both. And the neurodiverse talent, that is a really, really cool thing. I haven't seen anybody else really focused in that space. It's just great, great stuff. You can learn more about Nina and Zopa at zopa.com, and that's XOPA, Zopa, XOPA.com. To make it easy, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at SaaSfuel.com. And if you're getting value out of the show, subscribe or follow us there or on our new YouTube channel. I really appreciate it, and it lets the team know that you appreciate them and the guests as well. Everyone who subscribes this week gets a custom-designed cloud storage pillow, allowing you to rest easy knowing your dreams are safe and secure in the digital realm. Join us next time on our SaaS Fuel Expert series for Aaron Zakowski, CEO of Zamo Digital. They're a marketing agency that helps B2B SaaS companies grow revenue with LinkedIn and Facebook ads. So what platform is better for SaaS companies to leverage growth? Is it LinkedIn or is it Facebook? Where should you be advertising? We'll come back next week for a head-to-head shootout moderated by Aaron. Great, great stuff. And our founder next week is Nate Grayek, founder of Sticky, a SaaS that helps creatives book more clients. Nate's also bringing his decade of bootstrappy SaaS experience to help other SaaS founders reimagine their approach to marketing, go deeper, and unlock predictable growth without cringy ads or weird stuff. So I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at SaaSfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.